You never think it's going to happen to you. You hear these stories, see posts on Reddit about betrayal, heartbreak, lies, and you tell yourself you'd know. You'd see it coming. You'd pick up on the signs. But the truth is, sometimes you don't. Sometimes, the people you love the most are the ones who blindside you the hardest. I'm 34. Just your average guy, honestly. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, the kind of place where you know your neighbors, where your parents come to every school event, where family means everything. That's how I was raised, to believe that loyalty was sacred, that trust was the foundation of any relationship worth having. And that's the belief I carried into my marriage. Emily and I met in college. She was funny, kind, beautiful, the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it. When we started dating, I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. We were young, in love, full of plans for the future. After we graduated, we got married, bought a modest home, and started building a life together. 2 kids later, I thought we had it all. Sure, we had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I believed we were solid. And my family? My parents adored Emily. My mom would call her just to chat. My dad was always charming, always good with words. He'd tell me how lucky I was, how I'd found a rare gem in Emily. And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? For the longest time, everything felt normal. Or as normal as life gets when you're juggling work, kids, bills, and trying to keep a marriage alive in the middle of it all. But looking back now, I can see when things started to shift. It was subtle at first. Small changes that I brushed off because I didn't want to see the bigger picture they were pointing to. It started about a year ago. Emily and I were both busy, me with my job in IT, her managing a local bookstore. We were both tired most of the time, but she seemed different. She started staying up later than usual, saying she couldn't sleep. She'd sit out on the porch, staring at her phone, lost in thought. When I'd come out to join her, she'd lock the screen, slip it into her pocket, and smile at me like nothing was wrong. I'd ask if everything was okay, and she'd say she was just stressed about work, about the kids, about life. And I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Because the alternative, that there was something else going on, was too painful to consider. But the distance between us grew. Our conversations became surface level. The intimacy that once felt so easy, so natural, started to feel forced. She'd flinch away from my touch sometimes, offering weak excuses about being tired or having a headache. I told myself it was just a rough patch, that we'd get through it like we always had. Then came the moments that really started to eat at me. The way she lit up when my dad would stop by. At first, I thought it was sweet, that she was happy to see him, that they had a good relationship. My dad had always been a charmer. People liked him. He had a way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the room. And I guess Emily wasn't immune to that. But over time, their interactions began to feel off. There was a tension there I couldn't quite put my finger on. The way they'd exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. The inside jokes I wasn't part of. The way he'd find reasons to come over, to help fix something, to drop something off, to check in. And always, Emily would light up when he arrived. Her mood would shift. It was subtle, but it was there. I tried to push the thoughts out of my head. You're imagining things, I told myself. You're tired. You're stressed. Don't be that guy who gets paranoid for no reason. But my gut wouldn't let it go. It kept nagging at me, whispering that something wasn't right. One night I decided to stay up. Emily had gone out onto the porch again, phone in hand. I waited, watching through the window. And I saw it, the smile that spread across her face when she read a message. The way she typed quickly, eagerly. The way she seemed happier, lighter, in that moment than she'd been with me in weeks. I wanted to believe it was just a friend. Maybe she was texting my mom or a coworker. But deep down I knew. I knew. And still, I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Because confronting her meant facing the possibility that my world wasn't as solid as I thought. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Instead, I started watching more closely. Noticing the little things I'd ignored before. The way she'd dress up a bit more on days my dad was coming over. The way her laughter sounded different when he was around, freer, more genuine. The way he'd linger when it was time to leave, as if neither of them wanted the visit to end. And I started noticing things about my dad too. The way he looked at her. The way he'd compliment her, subtle but there. The way he'd touch her arm just a little too long, a little too often. I told myself I was imagining it. That no father would do that. That no wife would do that. But the doubt kept growing. The final straw, the moment that shattered any remaining illusion, came on a Sunday afternoon. My dad had come over to help with a leaky faucet. I was working in the garage, giving them space, trying to get the car running again. After a while, I went inside to grab a drink. And that's when I saw it. I paused in the hallway, frozen, as I heard them talking in the kitchen. I couldn't make out every word, but the tone, it was intimate. Too intimate. And then I saw the way he looked at her, the way she looked at him, and I knew. I just knew. They hadn't noticed me yet. I stood there, heart pounding, as I watched my dad reach out and tuck a strand of hair behind Emily's ear. It was a small gesture, but it said everything. The look in their eyes, the closeness, the familiarity, it all clicked into place. I couldn't breathe. I backed away, out the door, and drove. I didn't even know where I was going. I just had to get out. I drove for hours, the weight of what I'd seen crushing me, suffocating me. I kept seeing it in my mind, that moment, that look, that touch. The betrayal. And that was just the beginning. I wish I could tell you that after that night, I pulled myself together. That I marched back into that house, demanded answers, stood tall. But the truth? I didn't. I was shattered. I spent the night in my car, parked in some empty lot on the outskirts of town. I couldn't go home. I couldn't face them, either of them. My wife. My father. The two people I trusted most. The two people who tore my world apart. I didn't sleep. I sat there all night, staring at the dashboard, replaying every memory, every conversation, every glance they'd shared that I'd brushed off. The puzzle pieces fell into place, one by one, forming a picture I couldn't unsee. The way Emily would defend my dad when I got annoyed at him for meddling. The way my father would always find a reason to drop by, even when I told him we needed space. The way they seemed to have this unspoken connection that I had chalked up to them just getting along. I thought about my kids, our kids. How could I protect them from this? How could I keep their world intact when mine had just been burned to the ground? The sun came up eventually, as it always does. And with it came the realization that I had to go home. I couldn't hide in that car forever. I had responsibilities. I had to face what was waiting for me. When I walked in the door, Emily was there. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Her eyes were red and puffy, and the second she saw me, she broke down. Tears streaming down her face, body shaking. She tried to speak, but the words came out in gasps. "Please," she whispered. "Please, just let me explain." But what was there to explain? I'd seen enough. And yet, part of me, the part that still loved her, the part that didn't want this to be real, stayed quiet. I didn't say a word. I just walked past her, into our room, and shut the door. That day passed in a blur. I went through the motions for the kids, breakfast, playtime, lunch. All the while, Emily kept trying to talk to me, to get me to listen. And I couldn't. I couldn't look at her without seeing that moment in the kitchen. Without seeing my father's hand in her hair. My father called. I didn't answer. He texted. Apologies, explanations, promises. I didn't read them. I couldn't bear to, but I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat down at the kitchen table. Emily sat across from me, wringing her hands, eyes swollen from crying. I'm sorry, she started, voice trembling. I never meant for this to happen. I didn't plan it. It just happened. I stared at her, numb. How long? I asked, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Hollow. Broken. She hesitated. That split second of hesitation told me more than any words ever could. A few months, she admitted. It started small. Just talking. But then, I don't know. We got close. I was lonely. You were always working, always tired. And your dad, he was there. He listened. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Lonely. Listened. The excuses sounded so weak, so empty. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make her feel the pain she caused. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at the woman I thought I knew. And him? I asked. What about him? My father? She broke down again, sobbing into her hands. He said it was a mistake, that it shouldn't have happened. We both knew it was wrong. We stopped. I swear we stopped. I didn't believe her. I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen. Not after the months of lies, of stolen glances, of hidden messages. That night, I slept on the couch. If you can even call it sleep. My mind wouldn't shut off. The images, the words, the betrayal, it was all there, playing on a loop I couldn't escape. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I filed for divorce. I knew there was no saving this, no coming back from what they'd done. Emily tried, at first, to change my mind. She promised counseling, begged for forgiveness, swore she'd do anything. But I was done. The trust was gone. The love, or at least the version of it I'd known, was dead. And my father? I cut him off. Blocked his number, refused to see him. My mother was devastated, caught in the crossfire of a war she hadn't started. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't face him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. It was like watching my entire world crumble around me. The life I'd built, the future I'd imagined, gone in an instant. And all I could do was try to pick up the pieces, for myself, for my kids, and somehow I had to find a way forward. The days after the truth came out felt like I was living someone else's life. I moved through it all in a haze, packing Emily's things when she moved out, trying to keep it together for the kids, avoiding my father's calls like my life depended on it. I kept telling myself I was doing the right thing, that cutting him off was the only way to protect what little was left of my sanity. But it didn't last. Because eventually, the past always catches up to you. It was a Saturday. I remember that because the kids were at a friend's house for a birthday party, and for once the house was quiet. Too quiet. I was sitting on the back steps, drinking coffee that had long gone cold, when I heard a car pull up. I didn't even need to look. I knew it was him. I stayed where I was, hoping maybe he'd leave if I didn't answer the door. But no, of course not. My father's voice boomed across the yard like it always had. Confident. Entitled. Like he had every right to be there. Son, come on. We need to talk. I felt my hands clench into fists without even realizing it. I stayed still. Silent. Please. I'm not leaving until we do. There was a long pause, and then I heard his footsteps on the porch. A knock. Another. And then he tried the door. Found it unlocked. Let himself in. I stood up, my heart racing, the blood in my ears so loud I could barely think. When he stepped out onto the back porch and saw me, his face lit up, like he thought this was going to be some kind of reconciliation. Like we could just talk it out and everything would be fine. "Son," he said, stepping toward me. "I've missed you." I didn't move. I just stared at him. This man who used to be my hero. This man who'd sat next to me at my wedding, who'd held my children in his arms when they were born, who'd taught me to ride a bike, to throw a ball, who had destroyed it all. "What do you want?" I said, my voice low, dangerous even to my own ears. "I want to make things right," he said, his voice soft, like he actually believed he could fix this. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But I'm still your father. I still love you. We can get past this." I laughed. A bitter, humorless laugh that surprised even me. "Get past this?" I repeated. "You think we can get past this?" He tried to reach for my shoulder, and that's when I snapped. All the rage, all the heartbreak, all the betrayal I'd been swallowing for weeks, it erupted. I shoved his hand away hard. "Don't you touch me," I spat. "Don't you ever touch me again." He looked shocked, like he couldn't believe I was rejecting him, like I was the one in the wrong. "Son, please." And then I lost it. The words tumbled out, loud, raw, furious. "You slept with my wife. In my house. You lied to me. You betrayed me. You destroyed our family. And now you want to stand here and what? Make amends? There's no making amends. There's no fixing this." I saw his face change then, like he realized, really realized, for the first time, that he'd lost me. That nothing he said could fix it. But instead of backing down, he tried again. "It wasn't supposed to happen. We didn't plan it. It just got out of hand. I was lonely. Your mother and I haven't been happy for years. And Emily. Don't you say her name," I shouted. I stepped closer to him, the rage boiling over. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. "Don't you dare stand here and make excuses. You're pathetic." And then he said it. The thing that pushed me over the edge. The thing I'll never forget. "You don't understand," he said. "She came to me. She needed someone. You weren't there for her." I don't remember deciding to hit him. I don't remember thinking at all. 1 second I was standing there, seething, and the next my fist connected with his jaw. The crack of it echoed across the yard. He stumbled back, shocked, his hand going to his face where blood bloomed from his lip. For a second, just a second, I froze. This was my father. My father. But the moment passed, and all I could see was the man who'd taken everything from me. He came at me then, not with the same fury, but like he wanted to grab me, to stop me, maybe even to hug me. I don't know. But I wasn't having it. I shoved him back so hard he fell against the porch railing, his breath knocked out of him. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking. "Get out and don't come back." He stood there, panting, looking at me like he didn't even recognize me. And maybe he didn't. Maybe I didn't recognize myself either. Finally he straightened, wiped the blood from his mouth, and nodded, like he understood. Without another word, he walked down the steps, across the yard, and drove away. I stood there long after he was gone, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. I felt sick, exhausted, hollow. But also, for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt free. The fight with my father was the breaking point. After he drove away, I stood there on the porch until the sun went down. I felt drained. Like I'd poured out every last drop of anger, grief, betrayal, and now there was nothing left. Just emptiness. But in that emptiness, something new started to stir. A quiet resolve. I realized I couldn't keep living in the wreckage. I had 2 kids who needed me whole, not hollowed out by rage. And I needed myself back too. The next few weeks were hard. Every morning I woke up and had to remind myself to breathe, to keep going, to take one small step at a time. I started seeing a therapist. I didn't want to at first. I thought I could muscle through the pain, handle it on my own. But one night, after I found myself staring at the ceiling until dawn, I realized I couldn't. So I made the call. Therapy didn't magically erase the pain, but it gave me a place to put it. A place where I could say everything I was too ashamed or too broken to say out loud anywhere else. I talked about the betrayal, about the fight, about the guilt that ate at me for hitting my father, about the part of me that still missed Emily despite everything. I poured it all out, and little by little, the weight started to lift. Emily stayed gone. She moved out of state a few weeks after the fight. There were no more texts, no more calls, no more attempts at reconciliation. It was like she disappeared, and I let her. I didn't chase her. I didn't ask where she went. I focused on the kids. On me. My father tried once more to reach out. A letter in the mail. I read it, though I don't know why. It was full of apologies, explanations, memories of better times. I folded it up, put it back in the envelope, and tucked it into a box in the back of my closet. Maybe someday I'll read it again. Maybe not. What mattered was what came next. I started rebuilding my life, piece by piece. I took the kids on little trips, the zoo, the lake, camping. I threw myself into work, not to escape, but to feel productive, to remind myself that I could still build something good. I reconnected with old friends I'd let drift away during the marriage. I went back to the gym slowly, tentatively, as if trying to inhabit my own body again after being a ghost for so long. There were setbacks. Nights when the loneliness hit so hard it felt like I couldn't breathe. Mornings when I woke up expecting to hear Emily's voice, only to remember she was gone. But with each passing day, those moments grew fewer, and the moments of peace grew more. I started to see myself again in the mirror. Not the broken man standing on that porch after the fight. Not the hollowed-out shell who'd slept in his car the night of the betrayal. But someone stronger. Someone who'd walked through fire and was still standing. And for the first time in a long time, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I'd be okay. Time does strange things after a storm, like the one I lived through. It slows down at first, every minute stretching out with the weight of grief and anger. And then, without you realizing it, it starts to speed up again. The days blur, the pain softens at the edges, and before you know it, you've put distance between yourself and the wreckage. That's how it was for me. Months passed. The sharp sting of betrayal dulled into something quieter, a scar instead of an open wound. The kids kept me grounded. Every time I looked at them, I was reminded why I had to keep going. They were innocent in all of this, and they deserved a dad who could be present, who could be strong for them. I didn't date. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to let anyone in. I needed to learn how to stand on my own first. And honestly, I didn't trust myself yet, didn't trust that I'd see the red flags if they showed up again. So I focused on the life I had, my kids, my work, my small circle of true friends who stuck by me when everything fell apart. The house felt empty at first, but over time, I made it mine again. I painted the walls, got rid of the furniture that held too many memories. I tore out the old kitchen cabinets my dad had helped install and replaced them myself. Every screw, every nail, a small act of reclaiming my space. It was cathartic, in its own quiet way. I didn't hear from Emily again. Not a word. And I stopped expecting to. I think, in some strange way, we both knew there was nothing left to say. Whatever we'd had was gone. Whatever future we might have built was reduced to rubble the second she crossed that line with my father. As for him, I never responded to the letter. I never called. I never visited. Maybe one day I'll be ready for that. Maybe not. People tell me, he's still your father. And yeah, he is. But he's also the man who taught me what betrayal feels like. That's not something I can just look past because of blood ties. But here's the thing. I'm not bitter anymore. Angry? Sure, sometimes. But bitter? No. I let that go. I had to. Holding on to it was like drinking poison and expecting it to hurt them. All it did was eat at me. The real turning point came about a year after Emily left. I was at the park with the kids. It was one of those perfect spring days. Blue sky, warm breeze, the sound of their laughter filling the air. I remember sitting on that bench, watching them chase each other across the grass, and realizing I felt light. Like I could breathe again. That was the moment I knew I was going to be okay. Since then, life's been simple. And I'm grateful for that. No more secrets. No more lies. Just me, my kids, and the quiet kind of happiness that comes from knowing you survived something that tried to break you. And it didn't win. I won't pretend I have it all figured out. I still have bad days. I still have moments when the past creeps up and tugs at the edges of my peace. But those moments pass. And each time they do, I feel stronger for it.